Hello and welcome back for another video. In this one, I'll be breaking down where I could see potential trade targets end up at the trade deadline in February. I'll be discussing 4 players that all have value and could help their new team win from day one, if they do indeed get traded. So, without further ado, let's get started. The first player I'll be discussing today is the Bulls' newest Supermax player, Zach LaVine. Zach and the Bulls agreed on a Supermax deal this summer, but in a very short time since signing, LaVine missed some games early on in the season due to knee soreness after claiming his knee felt great before the season started. To make matters worse, the Bulls are currently the 10th seed with a 16-19 record. The Bulls have no real direction at the moment and have to make a tough decision to either stick it out with this roster and try to improve it somehow, or start the rebuilding process. In both scenarios, LaVine could get traded, so let's break down which teams are interested in him and where he could potentially end up. The franchise making the most noise about trying to trade for LaVine are the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs are desperate to pair Luka with another star to keep the young superstar happy and winning, but the Mavs don't have much to offer with their roster. They could do a similar deal like how the Hawks got DeJounte Murray and offer 3 first-round picks for LaVine, and the Bulls would most likely accept that. Another destination he could potentially end up in is the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis is still out indefinitely, and LeBron is sitting there waiting for Lakers management to bring him some much-needed help to win. They're still holding on to their 2 coveted first-round picks, so they could offer the 2 picks and Patrick Beverley to the Bulls, and if the Bulls decline, they could throw in Lonnie Walker as well. The Bulls need a point guard, so Pat Bev helps there, and Lonnie could fill LaVine's scoring role as the shooting guard. Now, let's move on to our next potential trade candidate. The next trade candidate I'll be discussing today is John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. Collins has been in trade talks for the last couple years now, but always seems to stay with the Hawks in the end. Well, he's on the trade block once again, and the Hawks aren't doing as well as they had hoped this year after trading 3 first-round picks to acquire DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs to pair him next to Trae Young. The Hawks are looking to improve the roster and add more shooting from the wing position, so let's take a look at who is interested in Collins and what the Hawks could get in return for the starting power forward. I had to use the trade machine to come up with ideas for Collins, and unfortunately it didn't have picks available for visuals. But the first trade we got is John Collins and 2 second-round picks to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma and Will Barton. Kuzma has said he doesn't plan to re-sign with the Wizards this offseason, so trading him to the Hawks makes sense as they're more in position to win now and need of more shooting. And the Wizards aren't using Will Barton much, so they'd probably be happy to get him off the books. The second trade I came up with is John Collins and Justin Holiday to the Utah Jazz for Kelly Olynyk and Malik Beasley. Olynyk and Beasley help bring much needed shooting to the Hawks, while Collins is a younger player looking for a bigger role, and the Jazz can provide him just that, with a starting role next to Lauri Markkanen, and the 2 young bigs could grow together from there. Now, let's move on to our third trade candidate. My third trade candidate is Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards. Kuzma has stated that he doesn't plan to re-sign with the Wizards, so he leaves the organization no choice but to move him, as they aren't in a position to make the playoffs at the moment and don't want to lose him for nothing. So, let's take a look at some trades for Kuzma. The first trade destination I came up with for Kyle Kuzma is Kuzma to the Dallas Mavericks for Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Green, and a second-round pick. Finney-Smith plays a big role in the Mavs defense, but the Mavs defense has been so bad this year that they're probably better off bringing in a better offensive threat in Kuzma and attempt to outscore their opponents night in and night out, with the uber offensively gifted Luka Doncic leading the charge. For the Wizards, Finney-Smith will bring in much needed defense as a 3-and-D player, and Josh Green is a good young prospect that continues to get better and looks to have an NBA career ahead of him. The second trade destination I came up with for Kyle Kuzma is Kyle Kuzma and Will Barton to the LA Clippers for Marcus Morris Sr., Robert Covington, and a second-round pick. The Clippers aren't playing Covington much, and the Wizards aren't playing Barton much, so consider them a draw for the moment. Marcus Morris Sr. and Kuzma do very similar things, but Kuzma being younger and a bit better at this point, hence the second round pick to even it out. If the Wizards don't re-sign Kuzma, then they lose him for nothing, so I'm sure they'd rather have Morris Sr. and an elite 3-and-D player in Covington and a second round pick instead. Now, let's move on to our fourth and final trade candidate. My fourth and final trade candidate is Bojan Bogdanovic from the Detroit Pistons. Bojan is 33 years old and making $20 million a year, so he doesn't quite fit the Pistons' young timeline. It makes sense for the Pistons to move Bojan while he's playing as well as he is, averaging 21 points and still has decent trade value. So let's check out the first trade destination I thought of for Bojan. The first trade destination is once again the Los Angeles Lakers as they seek more shooting from the perimeter, and Bojan does just that. Bojan isn't quite as good as fellow trade candidate Zach LaVine, but you could also obtain him for a cheaper price. The trade is Bojan and Corey Joseph to the Lakers for Patrick Beverley, Lonnie Walker, and Juan Toscano Anderson. Lonnie and Juan are younger and fit the Pistons' timeline better, as well Patrick Beverley could help mentor young guards Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. The next trade destination idea is Bojan Bogdanovic and Hamidou Diallo to the New York Knicks for Derrick Rose, Cam Reddish, and Quentin Grimes. Similar to the Lakers three being traded, Reddish and Grimes are both young and fit the Pistons' timeline, while Rose could return back to Detroit and help mentor the Pistons' young guards. On the flip side, Knicks are in win-now mode and looking to improve the roster, and Bojan does just that from all aspects, with his shooting, playmaking, and veteran leadership. Well, those are my potential trade targets and their potential trade destinations for the NBA trade deadline on February 9th. If you have a different trade idea for one of these players or any other player, feel free to comment them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.